you mentioned like the good blokes sort of get together and then the maybe not so good blokes sort of get together and you sort of find your niche. Like to be a successful team for that long, like sure, like do you remember the team culture? Like was it Lee? Was it a group of you guys all on the same page? That self-belief to win you sort of talked about in your book here. Like what do you, I believe that you can have a team of really great players, but unless you're all functioning as a bloody unit and have that mutual respect for each other, you can't find success.
Yeah, I had Dr. Phil Jones at my house yesterday. He came over and he's...
Was he the psychologist working with the Lions at the time?
So he was with us, but he was with the Broncos under Wayne Bennett. Still works with Wayne. Yeah. If Lee was still coaching, he'd be working with Lee, I'd say. He worked with John Buchanan. Like, so even when I ran into Ian Healy, he just like a couple of weeks ago at the Brecky Creek, within a couple of minutes, we're always talking about psychology because, you know, he came under the same system of Mozzies, enforcers, thinkers and feelers and pairs and triangles and shit. So, you know, all that team success was based around Lee came, so he was a very respected coach, but he took our talented group that had come last to a very defensive but very good tackling
bloody strong team. Like strong, if I think about the Lions in the early 2000s, it's just a hard-hitting, just a team that you wouldn't want to play against.
Yeah, I mean, that era, you know, you had to be big and strong, but they were fucking fast. But they were footballers who were talented, who can kick and run. And,
of course.
Like we had blokes like, let's say, Justin Lepage and myself went to the back line in 99. So we both became All-Australian. You had Chris Johnson, who was a forward, go to the back pocket. Darryl White, superstar forward, go to the defence. Chris Scott was a good midfielder, but then he goes to defence. Marcus Ashcroft, great midfielder, goes to defence. So he shored us up in the defence. But then you had Phil and then Dr. Phil. Then you had these amazing kind of physios, doctors that came on. And Lee had enough brains to get the best he could. And so Victor Popov, still a great mate of mine, is coming around next week. You had the two great doctors in Paul McConnell and another guy called Dr. Andrew Smith, who just retired from the Lions. So that other side started to match with Lee's ability to have, he was a good, strong defensive coach,
one of the
consistent.
best AFL players.
And then you've got the psychology, which was just, I can't tell you how important that was because with the culture, we had so many enforcers. So enforcers are generally big picture. They love to argue. They really aren't. They can take the game by the scruff of the neck and go, you just fucking follow me, boys. And it's very unusual to have 16 of the 22 starting for, say, the Brisbane Lions teams were force a Mozzie or force a thinker. Get a lot of coaches like Lee, which is a big thinker enforcer or enforcer thinker. So Brad and Chris Scott, for example, become coaches. Wayne Bennett, nearly identical personality to Lee as far as the profiling. Then you had Martin Pike, who was, off the chart enforcer. Then you've got myself, who's a Mozzie enforcer thinker, and then you've got obviously, Vossi being a captain. Then you had blokes like, you had Brad Scott, who was the opposite to his brother. So one had a stronger thinker, which was Chris, and Brad more enforcer.
Yeah, right.
So when they used to speak, Brad would be like, fucking, I'll punch you in the face first. Yeah. Chris would think about it, and then he'd punch you in the face. So Chris far more calm. But where Nigel Lappin, which is very unusual to have big thinker feelers in your group. Yeah. Now, so the Broncos this year, if you're a Broncos fan, they really struggled. But what he did was the coach got rid of all the experience and kept a lot of really good fellas, but they're generally too many thinker feelers.
Right.
Thinker feelers are got to be belonging, can take years, never happy with the way they perform.
Okay.
Nigel was that kind of guy. Like Nigel just, hated to make an error, dwell for days on shit, and Nige, but he complimented us. He could just go and do his thing, and we really had to, as Lee had to do, and Phil. So, well, look, he's going to respond better if you say, look, you belong here, Nigel.
Right.
Where saying that to me is not really a big thing. He'd just say, look, I need you to think about these three things. It'd be fucking no worries. And so those different personalities and the teaching styles are very important. And that's really what drove the culture, because I could understand Nige. Before the game, Lepper and Mal Michael, for example, would be off there fucking telling the worst jokes you've fucking ever heard in your life. But for them, that was the way that they needed to prepare, because for us thinkers, we'd be like, I got to get this done, this done. Got to go do this. It's almost like too strict, like superstitious strict. Yeah. Where those boys need to be completely flexible, just relaxed. So thinking about footy is a bad idea. They'd play like shit. Yeah. So, but knowing that, you'd be like, yeah, you dickheads, keep telling your bad jokes and just keep going. So that was important.
So yeah, like we through my experience, it's just understanding the individual is so important to lead them. And it sounds like that bringing Dr. Phil on board during that time really allowed Lee to lead the individual rather than just yell at 22 blokes to sort of move in one direction. And like you said, understanding how those individuals think and prepare and live their life really made sure that you guys could each prepare individually, but then also play as a unit when it came down to it.
Yeah, no, most people and most coaches, and unless you sort of coached and played under good coaches, see, people need to understand a couple of things. One, footy, like all team sports, it's a relationship business.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
So, but Lee's job wasn't to coach the individual. His job was to coach the team.
Right.
So him telling me how to kick a goal is a fucking dumb idea. Lee telling me how to instinctually run past a bloke, do a fend, don't argue, and then fucking fake a guy and kick a goal for 50. That's a fucking bad idea. Lee didn't need to do that. He's like, Jason, when it comes out of the middle, you're going to rotate forward. When you're forward, I want you to lead, kick goals.
Done.
So he's talking about the team. He's not talking about me. He's just saying this is your role, accept your role, play your role.
Yep.
So there's a big difference. And even great coaches, all the great coaches, from Phil Jackson to even Jose Mourinho, he talks about it. Anyone you can imagine that's come through, Sir Alex Ferguson, you read their books and you study them and they're all the same. Yep. Like the problem that, say, Alex Ferguson had with David Beckham. Now, he's for the team. So he doesn't have to coach David Beckham because after training, David Beckham be curling him in the corners, offset shots, off penalty shots and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't need to coach him that. But when David Beckham started doing that stuff, he had a problem because that affected the team.
Right.
So in the end, Alex Ferguson said, you've got to leave the team. You're now not the guy I need in that role.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. They think, and Dave and Alex would tell you that, Dave thinks about their relationship, which in some way it is, but in another way, he's got the bigger picture in mind where Dave Beckham would be thinking, well, fuck you, how could you do that?
Yeah.
So the individual is always never as important as the team, as a coach. So Phil would help Lee, and Lee even now, Lee's not a one-on-one kind of guy.
Right.
You talk, have a coffee, talk about footy, talk about this, certain things, and that's it.
Yep.
But you talk about teams and everything we need to do, man, he's hella. He can talk for days.
Yeah.
Same with Wayne, no different. But he had a more come for a barbecue kind of feel because he knew it's uncomfortable for him, but it was better for the team culture to be together than be separated. Yeah. For example.
Build those relationships with him and each other in that unit.
Yes. So Phil's the reason, and Wayne will tell you that he was able to get the initial State of Origin team to be successful. Even now, Phil will tell you Wayne had a problem with one halfback was producing better results than the other.
Yep.
Yet one had this great advantage of just sort of setting up the play. And he's like, well, what are we going to do? And Phil says, you can't put a structured guy in there because he's too predictable. You need a Mozzie in there. Mozzie, unpredictable, buzz it around, instinct, like a Simon Black, off the chart Mozzie. Yep. You can't tell Simon Black as an individual, mate, I need you to go and tag someone. Yeah. It's a fucking dumb idea because he doesn't have the structure to do it. Chris and Brad Scott could do that because they're structured. They study the guy. Blackie, mate, go in the middle, float around and find the footy. Do it all day and superstar. So it's knowing your players, but the profiling gets straight through to what 12 years of coaching could do. Yeah. That's what I loved. Didn't take long, do the profile, done. Very few change over 30 years, really. So that was key, I think.